All right, so I'm going to blow things up a little bit and move on to lots of stuff about text and language and stories. And we will see some stuff that's been, there's a lot of work here, but plenty of stuff that's come out of POCs over the years. Students who have gone on to do all sorts of things, right? Students who are now at Facebook, Adobe, some are in faculty positions. So I'll refer to a lot of their work. Yeah, but I'm going to talk about this. All right, so this may all change, but there's an overall story. We're going to talk about measuring things to start with, and this, of course, is something I want to talk about more generally that goes beyond this happiness stuff that I'll talk about. But it's really incumbent upon us now with this sort of big data age, especially with social phenomena, just to build instruments that work well. And I'll root that in kind of the very old, sort of very familiar instruments. I'll change this around a little bit. Stories we've talked about in POCs. Happiness is lots of different things here. What I've called panometrics. I guess it's a little sinister, but we have panometer.org. And then this big piece here, which was published a couple of years ago in PNAS, which is the Pollyanna principle. And so I think this is, so many bad stories in the world, but this is quite a beautiful one, which is that there are more positive words than negative ones across many different languages, across many different corpora, and that it has a kind of a beautiful scaling structure as well. So we'll get to that. And then there are many other things that I want to get to, but it takes me a while to build up these slides. Yeah. So these are a couple of the original pieces that will be important to us. And these slides, as I said, need to be, well, I'm working on them. So there'll be some things that I need to clean up. That's all right. This is dead. All right, so we've had some good press over the years. I'll talk about some of this later on, but this was early press. Some of this was in National Geographic. Outside Magazine wrote about it last year, but we've had the New York Times a bunch of times and so on. So, yeah. All right, so some motivation. You may have seen this in other places. I love to talk about this thing. So this is Greenspan. This is 2007. So I've been dealing with these mathematical models, and this is in an interview on I guess online or on TV, depends what you watch. But this idea that if you could figure out how people are behaving, or how their emotions are working, wouldn't need this mathematical stuff. It's not a really, this is a little bit of a free flow of words from him, but he could forecast the economy better than any way we know how, right? So we know now. Probably not true. And this kind of got out of hand, right? So there was a paper from a few years ago called Twitter Predicts the Stock Market, which you may look up if you want. I guess I should refer to that at some point. But that is the title. There's no colon, a little bit, or in this special context, or we're making. And people started up. At least one, investment firm started up something based on that. People do use tweets and social media just to add to things, some of the big machine learning things, right? So it can be a useful input, I suppose, but as a sole input, I'm not sure about that. That was a weird paper. I'll talk about that later. Anyway, so people got excited about it. So this actually turns out to be, and I don't know why I have this not working, but it's Greenspan went on, and trouble is we can't do it. He's been doing it for 50 years. He's no better than he ever was, which seems amazing with computing to have said this. So forecasting 50 years ago was as good as bad as it is today. Reason is that human nature hasn't changed. We can't improve ourselves. So it's a Jon Stewart interview. It was quite enjoyable, the whole thing. And that was Stewart's tremendous response. Anyway, so that's some sort of motivation, right? So how, can you measure these things? And this is many years ago when we first got here, and I'd done a lot of things with social phenomena. I was just talking to Danforth, and a friend of his, and I'll show you this site if it's still around, sent a site on called wefeelfine.org. Yeah, Jonathan Harris fans will know about this. So it was a beautiful website at the time, won awards, and the way it worked was Jonathan Harris and Sepp Canva, who I'll mention again. Canva's at Media Lab, and Jonathan Harris, well, we didn't know this, but he actually grew up in Shelburne Farms, and so he's a area man, and he's part of the, I guess, the Webb family, that whole, right, the Shelburne Museum family, the Shelburne Farms family, so he comes from that lineage, but he went to Princeton, I think. Is that true? Fan. And did computer science there, and became, after that, this sort of scientist-artist character. And we had him here as an artist in residence for a little while, for one semester, which was fun. But basically it was this beautiful kind of showcase of, it was from blogs, which is weird, right, because blogs don't really exist anymore, but it was from blogs, and they took any sentence that they could find that had I feel, or I am feeling, or it just had some conjugation of feel and I in it somewhere. So that was the idea. And then they tried to find a word, like I feel or I am feeling, whatever that next word was, sad, happy, silly, whatever it was, they dug that out and counted those things up. So it's a sort of a fun thing to do, and it made a beautiful showcase, and they could sort of investigate it. What I'll show you is something that, so we were inspired by, but went off and did something different.